Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing Reflection by Elizabeth Lim and Poor Unfortunate Soul by Serena Valentino. Reflection by Elizabeth Lim is part of the Twisted Tales series. To protect her ailing father, Mulan joins the Chinese army by disguising herself as a man, an act punishable by death. In a moment of bravery, Mulan defeats the leader of the Hun army, but Captain Li Shang takes a grievous blow meant for her. With Shang at death's door, Mulan feels honor-bound to travel to the Underworld to retrieve his soul. Mulan travels the Underworld, facing dangerous obstacles, but the greatest challenge will be to face her true self and the image she wants the world to see. Yeah guys, this was another amazing entry to the Twisted Tales series, and I definitely can't say the same for the Disney Villains series. I'll get to that book by the end of this review. I am seriously struggling with the Disney Villains series, you guys, but yeah, I am just absolutely loving the Twisted Tales series. I mean, it's kind of almost like Disney doing their own fanfic in a way, you know, creating their own fan fiction, like, hey, what if we had done this instead? And that's all right, you know, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. It kind of gives you a new perspective and see things in a different way, like, okay, what if this had happened, you know? So yeah, as always with the Twisted Tales books, there's always a what if sort of situation or question. So this one is asking, what if Mulan had to go to the Underworld to pretty much go rescue Captain Li Shang, you guys, because he's at death's door and he's in peril and we don't need him to die. I love this book, you guys. I really, really love this. I think my favorite book in this series is still the Beauty and the Beast book, As Old as Time. That is still my favorite. I was just blown away by that one. But yeah, this is definitely a very, very close second. So what's great about this book? Elizabeth Lim, she skips a lot of the beginning stuff we're already familiar with, and she really throws you into the action in this book. We skip everything, you know, dealing with how Mulan even joins the Chinese army, you know, how, you know, why she does it, because her father is ill. He gets a letter recruiting him back to join the military and whatnot, and yeah, Mulan's like, oh no, he's not well, I'm going to chop off my hair, I'm going to take his sword, I'm going to disguise myself as a man. Yeah, we all know that, you know. Elizabeth Lim skips over all that. We skip over the training montages, you know, everything is skipped over. Where Elizabeth Lim drops us off is at that really pivotal point in the movie when, you know, the Chinese army is there in the mountain pass, and right across from them is the Hun army. It's a really pivotal point in the movie. You know, we may live or die here, and, you know, Mulan takes some risky chances there to help protect, you know, the Chinese army against the Hun army. And she ends up getting injured in the process, and I guess a bit of a spoiler for the cartoon version of Mulan. Yeah, that's kind of at this point, because she gets a wee bit injured, and when she's, you know, in bed, that's when it's kind of revealed, oh, Ping, because she goes by Ping, Ping is not a boy, he's actually a girl, and a girl named Mulan. So what we have instead, where Elizabeth Lim decides to kind of shift the narrative, you know, instead of Mulan getting injured in that moment, it's actually Captain Shang that gets injured, but he's like mortally injured. He's pretty much at death's door. He only has maybe so many hours left to live, and Mulan she essentially is like, okay, I'm going to travel down to the Underworld, which in Chinese culture, mythology, it's called Diyu? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Please let me know if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, you guys. Is it Diyu? I'm not quite sure. But yeah, she decides to go to the Underworld with the intent, you know, she feels very honor-bound to go save Captain Shang, retrieve his soul, because she doesn't feel like it's his time to die yet, that he still has purpose, and that he can still serve the Chinese army and whatnot. So yeah, that's where we are dropped off at the start of this book. You know, that critical moment at the mountain pass specifically, and kind of that shift there, that Shang is the one who gets severely injured, not Mulan. And not gonna lie, I didn't know how I was gonna feel about the overall, you know, what if scenario of this book, because we all love Mulan. You know, we all love the cartoon version of Mulan. There's just certain things about it we love. So I was like, okay, is this, you know, is this going to feel, you know, is it going to have those same feelings I get from watching the cartoon? You know, am I going to still love these characters? And fortunately, I think the twist, you know, Mulan going to the Underworld, it still works and it still serves Mulan's character story, you know, her growth and her development and that arc and whatnot of her trying to discover her true self. Because yeah, at the end of the day, this is her story. It's her story of discover, you know, it's self-discovery, you know, her self-identity, and more than anything, you know, she has to have a sense of self-love as well. So I loved what Elizabeth Lim was doing with all that, you know. It's still very much Mulan's story. It's just, you know, it's located in a different place. You know, now it's moved to the Underworld, which is an interesting way to do that, you know. And I think really provides unique different ways of exploring her character, but, you know, still giving us that great depth and characterization and whatnot. And yeah, like I said, this moving that location to DU, the Underworld, we're introduced to a lot more of Chinese culture and myth and whatnot. So the Twisted Tales series have primarily been written by Liz Braswell. So this is the first time that the series has gotten a different author. We have Elizabeth Lim now, who is of Asian descent and whatnot. So I really like that Disney, you know, they did that. They were like, okay, we're going to get the appropriate person to tell this story. And you can see, you know, you can see that that's working in here, because Elizabeth Lim, that's her culture, you know, that's her identity. So she knows what she's doing. She knows what she's saying. So everything that's happening in here, it's believable and you can accept it and whatnot, and nothing is like far-fetched, you know. So yeah, the appropriate person is telling this story, and I love that. And the Chinese Underworld, you guys, oh wow, it is pretty epically bizarre, and I love it. But the thing is, this is what I love about just all cultures, because, you know, all religions, everybody worships in different ways, but when you sit and compare everybody's religions and whatnot, there's a lot of similarities when you dig into it. And what I love about Elizabeth Lim's, you know, how she's depicting the Chinese underworld and whatnot, it is very reminiscent to something like Dante's Inferno, you know, like the levels of hell and whatnot, because the Chinese underworld is very similar. It has levels of hell, you know, and people are getting tortured, and there's ghosts and demons, and there's even this like fire-breathing dragon and whatnot. It's pretty great, but it's also bizarre but great. And even though it's essentially hell or limbo or whatever, even though it's meant to kind of be very scary and frightening, there's also something about how Elizabeth Lim depicts this underworld that there's something about that's weirdly, fantastically beautiful. So I kind of love that balance, you know, of things that are kind of horrifying and terrifying, but then also there's moments where something is oddly beautiful. And of course, Mulan is not on her own in this story. She is joined by a lion guardian. His name is, once again, if I'm butchering this, please let me know. The lion guardian, his name is Stacie. She no longer has Mushu. Mushu, some things kind of happen, and he's not able to join her to this trip to the underworld or whatnot. The lion guardian Stacie is actually the guardian of Shang's family. So Stacie is kind of there to help Mulan, you know, navigate through the underworld, help her go, you know, collect Captain Shang, you know, get his soul and whatnot. I kind of liked that Mushu was not really part of this, because, you know, in context of the cartoon, Mushu works. You know, he's very absurd and comical and whatnot. He works in the cartoon. But this book is definitely trying to be a little bit more you know, serious. I guess it still has its fair amount of like humor and silliness, but it's also trying to be a little bit more, you know, aware and more serious and whatnot. So you're given the Lion Guardian, which he's a little bit more serious, but he's really brave and courageous and whatnot. So yeah, even though Mushu's not in here, you still get this Lion Guardian. He's pretty epic and badass. I love him. And what the Lion Guardian, Shishi, what he provides, Elizabeth Lim does a great job with him, because through the Lion Guardian, it also allows for more, you know, looking into Chinese culture and mythology and whatnot, which I appreciated. And as I already mentioned, this book, it still retains everything you do love about the cartoon to some degree, especially how Mulan is depicted. This journey to the underworld really tests Mulan in unique, different, interesting ways, compared to what the movie does, I think. And on the plus side of this book, you get to be in Mulan's headspace, because it is told through her point of view, her perspective. So that allows you to be in her head, what she's thinking, what she's feeling at any given time. You can see her strengths and her weaknesses, her vulnerabilities, her insecurities. So it does, being in her head really allows a closer look at how she feels about herself and others, how she thinks others view her. And as I mentioned, this book at the end of the day, it's all about Mulan and her journey. Even though she's there to go rescue somebody, it's like she's almost rescuing herself too in some ways. Kind of her coming to that realization, I don't need to give a damn about how people think of me. I need to learn to love myself, be happy with myself, and hopefully others will eventually feel the same way about me and whatnot. And you guys, we still get all the fantastic Mulan and Captain Shang shipping going on. I love Mulan and Shang. They are just too adorable for words, you guys. And you know, as much as I love the relationship in the cartoon, the thing is, it just happens so quickly, literally kind of near the end of the movie, really. So this book, it gives you, they had more time to spend with each other, you know? They had more time to spend with each other and talk with one another and learn about each other. And then, yeah, you still get the gender reveal, obviously, you know? You still get that gender reveal when Shang does discover she is a woman and whatnot, but it comes across, it happens a bit more naturally. I feel like in this book compared to the movie, it comes across a bit more naturally and believable. And yeah, his reaction, you know, how Shang's reaction is in this, you definitely understand why he's having the reaction that he is, and then then the reactions that kind of follow from that and whatnot. So yeah, I really loved the Shang and Mulan relationship in this, how they grow and bond towards one another, because it's initially more of this very strong friendship, and of course starts merging into something else, which we all love. And because they are in the underworld, you know, the underworld is presenting a lot of challenges and obstacles, and each challenge and obstacle that gets in their way, it's a great moment for the two of them to come together and learn about each other in some kind of pivotal, unique way. And yeah, once again, great for them as individual characters as well, because that's another thing. I love learning a lot more about Shang, you guys. Not only did I like being in Mulan's perspective, but I really like learning a lot more about Shang, because in the cartoon we really don't know much about him. So yeah, I love learning more about his backstory and childhood, relationship with his father and whatnot. It was all great. So overall, I really love this book. I enjoyed it. Like I said, my favorite out of this series is definitely As Old as Time. This is a very close second. I do feel like there were a few moments in this book that it got a little bit boring. It kind of dragged a little bit, because sometimes I felt like there was maybe too many obstacles, you know, maybe one too many obstacles. But still, I love this book. Just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, well written by Elizabeth Lim. Just perfection, almost, you know. If you love all things Mulan, you're definitely going to like this, I think. Poor Unfortunate Soul by Serena Valentino is an origin story to the sea witch Ursula from The Little Mermaid. So yeah, as always with these Disney villains books, very short plot synopsis. I mean, there's not really much else to say, because that's just what these books are. They're origin stories to your favorite villains and whatnot. So yeah, origin story to Ursula from The Little Mermaid. Whew, oh boy, you guys. I just don't know how to feel about these these Disney villains books. I'm so conflicted about them. It's like there's a part of them that I do kind of like, but then another part of me, it's like I have more of a... I'm just more disappointed and frustrated more than anything with these books. And I think I've come to the realization that these books are just not going to be what I'm wanting them to be, you know, compared to the Twisted Tales books. If I had to say, hey, Disney villains or Twisted Tales, I definitely choose Twisted Tales over this. Like, if you had to pick one series, I definitely just do not really recommend the villains stories unless, you know, you're just really craving them or whatever. You're just curious. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still going to continue with this series because I do own all of the books. And yes, since I do, I love all things Disney, and it's like I like collecting these books because they are really cool covers, and, you know, plus like this one, the Ursula, and then you got Vanessa under the flag and whatnot. I just really like the book designs of these more than anything. It's like the book designs are way better than the actual books, and that's a shame. But yeah, I've just kind of come to the realization these books are just not really going to be what I want them to be, or I'm expecting them to be. So I don't know. I'm crossing my fingers that maybe at some point down the line, because there's quite a number of these books I have to get through, I'm hoping that maybe one of these books will be a lot better and will exceed my expectations, and I'll be pleasantly surprised with it, maybe. So, some of my key issues with this particular book, I have a few things here. First up, so far, all of the books in the Disney Villains series, they've all been primarily origin stories. You know, telling the events before we do get to what we know from the cartoons. And then we kind of go rapidly through what happens in the cartoon, you know. This book kind of did something a little different, and a lot of it kind of takes place either through just very quick flashbacks or other characters telling us a lot about Ursula, and a lot of the story also takes place kind of during the events of what's going on in The Little Mermaid. You know, what Ursula's kind of doing behind the scenes while, you know, Ariel is human and she's lost her voice and she's trying to, you know, capture the heart of Prince Eric and whatnot. So a lot of this is kind of what Ursula's up to. It's not really an origin story, because I was really looking forward to this book. Because I was expecting, hey, you know, an origin story to Ursula. You know, how does she become the Sea Witch Ursula? What is her vendetta against Triton and Ariel? And you get very minimal of that, you guys. There is a reason why she hates King Triton, why she's kind of targeting Ariel and whatnot, but it's just all done so quickly, so briefly, and it's like I wanted a whole big thing. You know, it's like I wanted like Game of Thrones under the sea, you know. That's kind of what I was expecting. Maybe that was too much to expect. Maybe because I had these grand ideas. Ooh, Game of Thrones under the sea and whatnot. That didn't happen. I guess I was expecting there to be some big like rival sort of thing, and, you know, Ursula pissed at King Triton for some reason, you know. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, yes, she is. She's angry at him. It's a very specific reason, but yeah, it's not as like deep and hardcore as I was kind of hoping and thinking it would be. And then my second issue with this book, you guys, my biggest issue with this book, where the hell is Ursula in this book? Ursula is barely even in this book. And look at, this is a tiny book, you guys. It's not even 200 pages. Seriously, it's not even 200 pages. It's a very tiny book. The book barely even focuses on Ursula. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff dealing with flashbacks with Ursula. Either she's kind of having a flashback or some other characters are having some sort of flashback in regards to Ursula, where the characters that this book is focusing on, this book is expecting you to have read the other books in this series, which I find kind of insane, because my understanding, I thought you could read all of these books individually, you know, whatever random order you want to read them in, but no, you need to read all the books prior to this book to even understand half the time what's going on. So yeah, you do need to have read Fairest of All, and you definitely really need to have read The Beast Within, because there's a lot of stuff that happened in The Beast Within that really plays big key pivotal moments in this book. So yeah, you're focusing, instead of focusing on Ursula, you're focusing on the Odd Sisters. For a good majority of it, the Odd Sisters have been introduced in all of the books so far. They've had like moments of how they influence, you know, the key Disney villains, because they're there when, you know, the evil queen from Snow White, you know, because they're like responsible for her giving her the magical mirror and everything. They're there for the Beast when he is there getting cursed and whatnot. The Odd Sisters are kind of this running theme, or running characters really, through all of the books. And yeah, this book is focusing primarily on them for whatever reason, and their quest to find their other sister. There's like a fourth sister who was like really present, heavily present in The Beast Within and whatnot. So yeah, the book is focusing on all of these other characters instead of Ursula. You guys, and it's just so weird. So yeah, if you're a fan of Ursula, be warned, you can't read this book as a standalone. You have to have read the other books in the series, or else you're going to be really confused and lost, because you're going to be like, who are these other characters? What's the point? And yeah, it was just, this whole book was just very odd and random, because it's like Serena Valentino has this whole big story she wants to tell, and it's almost like she's forced to incorporate the Disney villains, but she realistically wants to do her own thing, but it's like Disney's pulling her strings, you know, but she wants to tell her own story, and it does. It seems like the villains are kind of forced into, you know, the classic Disney villains, they're kind of forced into the narrative she wants to tell. I don't know, like I said, it's really strange and odd and kind of hard to explain unless you read it. So yeah, overall, I was heavily disappointed with this book. Frustrated more than anything. I do, like I said, I own all the books. I'm going to continue reading them because I do love all things Disney, and I'm just kind of, especially the Disney villains, and I'm just kind of wondering where the books are going to go, you know, if they're going to get any better at all. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to continue into this series and not get my hopes up so wildly, you know, try not to expect too much, because yeah, especially after this one. I feel like it's just all going downhill. I don't know. Maybe things will go uphill. Maybe that'll happen for once. I don't know. So you guys, that is it for my review on these two Disney-themed books. Obviously, if you can't tell, I definitely love the Twisted Tales series. Those are like the highlight. Whenever I've been reading these Disney books, the Twisted Tales series are definitely the highlights, and I enjoy them the most. Well, the Disney villains are just, they're just getting more and more frustrating at this point. I don't know what's happening. Either way, you guys, let me know, have you read any of these books? Do you plan on reading any of them? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.